where we follow us.
So we could turn over the voice from?
Yep. Last stuff.
This area here is the pavilion, so where you walked in was office space. So we are an incubator and Smart Cell and Accelerator. So what we do is we help companies that want to start a business up. We help them start a business up. They may need technology help, or they need business help, getting a business plan together and that kind of thing, getting ready for investors. We have two flavors of what we do here. One is on clean energy technology. The other one is on health sciences. So companies in those areas, we will help to grow. Companies can hook them up with services if they need services, technology, or business. We can hook them up with office space. So all the office space we saw there, if you want an office, we can rent you an office so that if you have investors, they're not coming in your basement or your garage. Like if you want money from me in your garage, we can give them office space over here. And the third thing that we can do is that we can rent some space over here by the square foot so they can build things, an actual fab space. I'll take you by this container over here. This is one of our first clients that can rent space here in Pavilion. It's a company called Wastewater Heat Transfer. Now, remember we talked about conservation being the most important? That's what this company is all about. They are catering to hotels, restaurants, places where there's a lot of hot water that's going down the drain. The hot water is going down the drain at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, you can't keep water up at 60 degrees Fahrenheit for 140. Well, that does make sense, right? And all of a sudden you're leaving, and then you're heating up brand new water with different energy. You're paying for that. So what they designed is a heat exchanger that will capture some of that heat from the wastewater going into the sewer and keep the cold water coming in. It's just a heat exchanger. And that helps conservation. Now, let's say instead of 60 degree Fahrenheit water coming in, it's very cold, and you want to get it to 140, this will get it halfway there. Just by taking some water from the waste stream, right? So that cuts your utility bills for heating water in half. That's a big deal with conservation. If you think about it, hotels, they're not natural gas water heaters. They don't have places for flues for a bunch of byproducts. They just put an electrical on it. So this is a big load on the electric grid, and this is going to help save something on the electric grid. So what they needed help on was the technology side. They wanted us to, we got one of these mounted at the student center here on campus, and we're monitoring that for about a year. I got a student working on it. We instrumented it. And we're going to see how it actually operates. Write a paper and put it into a journal out there so they have something to point to that says this is really how it works, peer reviewed, third-party validation, that kind of thing. So they have this pod in here so they take care of their own security. We don't have to worry about it. And then right around the back you can see some of the equipment they use for actually fabbing these heat exchangers. All those cans of lights that you see on top there, those are lights that we replaced. Remember, we're talking conservation first. If you look above, these are induction lights. Similar technology to CFL. The old lights that we had on there, those were 400 watt metal halide lights. We're using now, we're getting actually a little bit better light quality and using less than half the power. That kind of technology speaks for itself, right? Now, you don't have to pay money for these lights. You save on the electric bill every month. It's not technology, it's not accounting feasible. It is accounting feasible. It will save you money. You'll see a few pieces of equipment here from some of the studies. In the summer, they have used this space to shoot movies, shoot pilots. You guys probably too young to remember science in the 80s class back now, when I was your age.
I remember that.
I remember it too.
I was one of those guys.
It was a class.
But
they had a spin-off series also called Weird Science. We can go through one of the big ants hang off wires, boggles, and all that kind of good stuff. So they use that as a basis also. Other than, follow me. Other than the space for commercialization activities, we have a lot of space here for student activities. So this is ClickForm. This is the Chrysler Learning and Innovation Center. And we call this our Intern Plus program. And what they do here is that as the students are going through school, if they're interested in working in a stamping plant, for instance, they're interested in metal forming. One of the things that Chrysler told us is that even though we graduate students in that area, we still need about 8 months or so to ramp up before they're fully up to speed. They want to get rid of the 8 months. So they gave some money do this. And so students get, they come in here on Fridays, and they spend an afternoon with people from the metal stamping field. And then during the summer, they have internships at Chrysler, where they're actually in the plant working on the equipment. And in a couple of years, by the time they're done with their degree program, they're also totally up to speed on what they do out in the field. And Chrysler no longer has to spend the resources to train them for 8 months. They hit the ground running right now. Plus, they get a 2-year interview with these students, right? Because they're interns, so they know who they're gonna get for that. So this is a big win for them. Chrysler's not in the business of educating. We are. They're in the business of making stuff. We help them to do that. Okay. So follow me this way. This area right now is open, although we do have some conferences and that kind of thing in here, but this last weekend we had a big piano sale. So this whole area was filled with pianos. Our music department leases pianos from Evola Music, not too far from here, and then at the end of the year they sell these pianos. Big sale, half off, so instead of 100,000, it's only 50. Yeah, they actually sold quite a bit, about a third of their pianos over here. Grand pianos, baby grand, I mean, they're pretty pricey stuff, but they did very well. And then over on this side, we have a lot of tech demos, some of the technology that we are either using for classes or using for applied research. We do a lot of applied research here. We talked a little bit about solar being an alternative energy. These right here, these two technologies right here are solar thermal. So these technologies are for heating water, not for producing electricity. They can't do sunlight and water that goes through here. Instead of using natural gas, hot water, these will do it from the sun. Of course, you can't use them at night though. You want to have a big enough tank where you store the stuff up so you can't use it at night. And then we have, it's kind of spread out over here, but we have photovoltaic. So we have photovoltaic panels here. There's 10 panels sitting right there. That converts sunlight directly into electricity. And that's the technology that I bought into this panel that goes here sitting in my garage. Those are photovoltaic. So you use my electricity from the sun. This system right over here, remember we talked about Michigan being a big biomass state? Biomass is anything that grows out of the ground. So for instance, since we are a big agricultural state, we grow, for instance, a lot of corn. So this is corn stover right here. What is stover? It's everything in the corn that you don't use. So everything above the ground, because what do you grow corn for? You grow corn for the kernels, right? They're on the cob. But most people don't have a use for the cob, and they don't have a use for the stalk out of the ground where the corn sits on. So typically farmers just till this under. They don't know what to do with it. They just till it under and it just biodegrades. We can use that for energy. Same thing with soy stove or soy you grow for soybeans. And then everything else you just till under. Because you don't know what to do with it. But if you collect it, you can actually use this for energy. Now here's the problem. I'm going to pass this around. Look at how light this stuff is. It is extremely light. So if you want to transport that over long distances, you're transporting mostly air. It doesn't make any sense. It's going to take you more energy to transport the stuff that you're ever going to get out of it. So this is where a biomass densification system comes into play. Let me just show you the system. If you come around this way a little bit. What we have right here, what is this? Okay, can you be more specific? Hay's the right answer, but this is actually miscanthus, it's a type of switchgrass. And again, it's just like what you're holding in your hand. It's very light material. It's mostly air. So what we do with this is we put it in a chopper. This is a hammer mill. It beats the heck out of it into a powder. And it just blows through here. There's a central blower. It blows the newspaper. You guys come around the front here. You got a little plate glass window on this section where this is collected. You can see how fine this powder is. So it beats the heck out